Daddy, there's a red light behind my dollhouse, Emma whispered, her small hand tugging at my sleeve as I tucked her into bed. It blinks when it's dark. I turned to look at the vintage dollhouse sitting in the corner of her room, a family heirloom from her mother's side. At first, I saw nothing unusual, but then I caught it, a tiny red dot glowing in the shadows. My name is Daniel, and that moment would change everything I thought I knew about my family. It's probably nothing, sweetie, I said, trying to keep my voice calm while my heart raced. But let's take a look, shall we? Emma nodded, clutching her favorite stuffed penguin as I walked over to investigate. Moving the dollhouse slightly, I spotted something that made my blood run cold, a small camera, professionally mounted, its lens pointed directly at Emma's bed. What is it, Daddy? Emma asked, noticing my sudden tension. Just some old wiring, princess. Nothing to worry about. I forced a smile. Why don't you sleep in the guest room tonight? We can have a sleepover adventure. After settling Emma in the guest room, I returned to her bedroom, my hands shaking as I examined the camera more closely. It wasn't some cheap surveillance device. This was high-end equipment, carefully installed and concealed. Someone had deliberately placed it there, someone with access to our home. I called my wife, Sarah, who was working late at her law firm again. Did you install a camera in Emma's room? I asked without preamble. What? No, of course not, Sarah replied, sounding distracted. Why would I do that? Because I just found one hidden behind her dollhouse, and I want to know who put it there. The line went silent for a moment. I'll be home in 20 minutes, Sarah said finally, all traces of distraction gone from her voice. While waiting for Sarah, I began documenting everything with my phone, taking pictures of the camera's position and making notes. My police training from years ago kicked in, preserved the evidence, maintained the chain of custody. I left the force to start my own security consulting business, but some instincts never fade. Sarah arrived home in record time, still in her court suit, her face pale as she examined the camera. This is professional equipment, she said, her lawyer's mind clearly racing. We need to call the police. Not yet, I replied, something nagging at the back of my mind. This camera isn't streaming live, it's storing footage on a local drive. Someone has to physically retrieve it to access the recordings. What are you saying? I'm saying whoever placed this camera has been in our house regularly enough to collect the footage. This isn't some random pervert, this is someone we know. Sarah's face went even paler. The only people with access to our house are family and Emma's nanny, Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson had been with us for 2 years, coming highly recommended by Sarah's sister, Victoria. She had her own key and security code, necessary for the days when both Sarah and I worked late. We need to check the security logs, I said, moving to my home office where I kept detailed records of all entrance and exit times. See who's been coming in when they shouldn't be. As I pulled up the logs on my computer, Sarah stood behind me, her hand resting on my shoulder. The past month's data showed nothing unusual at first, just the regular comings and goings of our household. But then I noticed something odd. Look at these timestamps, I pointed to the screen. Someone's been entering the house every Friday between 2 and 3 p.m., when Mrs. Thompson takes Emma to her ballet class. Sarah leaned closer. That's impossible. I'm in court on Fridays, and you're always at the office then. I pulled up the camera footage from our front door, my stomach dropping as I recognized the familiar figure entering our home with practiced ease. Oh my God, Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The image on the screen showed Victoria, Sarah's sister, letting herself in with what appeared to be her own key. But Victoria wasn't supposed to have a key to our house. We changed the locks last year after a series of break-ins in the neighborhood. Why would she? Sarah's voice trailed off as the implications sank in. I was already pulling up more footage, tracking Victoria's movements through our house. Every Friday, like clockwork, she would enter, go straight to Emma's room, and leave exactly 15 minutes later. We need to get that camera's footage, I said, my security background screaming that we were only seeing part of a bigger picture. Whatever's going on, the answer is in those recordings. Sarah nodded, her lawyer's composure returning. Emma needs to stay somewhere else until we figure this out. I'll call my mother. No, I cut her off. We can't trust anyone in your family right now, not until we know what's going on. The truth was, I had suspicions about Sarah's family for months. Little things that didn't add up, conversations that stopped when I entered the room, the way Victoria always seemed too interested in our home security system. I'll call my brother, I said, reaching for my phone. Emma can stay with him tonight while we get to the bottom of this. As I dialed, I caught Sarah staring at the dollhouse in Emma's room, her expression unreadable. "It was a gift from Victoria," she said quietly. "She gave it to Emma on her 6th birthday, insisted it had to go in that exact spot." The implications made my skin crawl. How long had this been going on? What were they looking for? And most importantly, why were they watching our daughter? Little did I know, the camera was just the beginning. What we would discover in the next 24 hours would shake our family to its core. The next morning, after ensuring Emma was safely with my brother Jack, I began the delicate process of retrieving the camera's storage device. Sarah had left for her office, ostensibly to work but really to maintain normalcy in case Victoria was watching. We couldn't risk tipping our hand too early. The camera's memory card revealed weeks of footage. I sat in my home office, methodically going through each video file, my security training helping me stay detached despite the violation I felt watching these recordings of my daughter's room. At first, nothing seemed unusual, just normal daily routines. But then I noticed something strange. During Victoria's Friday visits, she wasn't just checking the camera. She was searching Emma's room, methodically going through drawers, looking under floorboards, even examining the walls with some kind of handheld device. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Victoria just showed up at my office, asking questions about Emma's upcoming doctor appointment. Something's wrong." I was about to reply when a particular video segment caught my eye. Victoria was in Emma's room, talking on her phone. "No, I haven't found it yet. The girl must have it somewhere. Yes, I understand what's at stake. No, they don't suspect anything." The timestamp showed this was from 3 weeks ago. I forwarded through more footage until something made me freeze. Last Friday's video showed Victoria pulling out what looked like blueprints of our house, studying them intently before making marks in specific locations. My security background screamed warnings. These weren't normal blueprints, they were detailed structural plans, the kind used for major renovations or searching for something hidden in the walls. Another text from Sarah. "Victoria keeps asking about Dad's old study items we inherited. The ones in storage." The pieces started clicking together. Sarah's father, Edward, had been a prominent judge before his sudden death last year. His study items, books, papers, old files, had been divided between Sarah and Victoria. We'd stored our share in the attic, never bothering to go through them properly. I raced upstairs to the attic, my mind racing. Victoria's strange behavior, the blueprints, her obsession with searching Emma's room, it all had to connect to Edward's belongings. The attic was cluttered but organized, thanks to Sarah's meticulous nature. I found the boxes from Edward's study easily enough. As I began searching through them, I discovered something odd. Several books had small markings on specific pages, seemingly random numbers and letters that made no sense on their own. My phone rang. Sarah again. "Daniel, Victoria just left, but she was acting strange. She kept trying to invite herself over for dinner tonight, insisted on seeing Emma." "Don't come home," I said, still examining the marked books. "Take a cab to Jack's. I think I'm onto something, but I don't want anyone at the house right now." "What did you find?" "Not sure yet, but whatever Victoria is looking for, it has something to do with your father's old cases. The camera, the searching, she's looking for something specific, something she thinks Emma might have found while playing." "But what could Emma possibly?" Sarah's voice trailed off, and I could almost hear the realization hit her. "The locket," she whispered. "Dad gave Emma a locket last year, right before he died. Said it was a special gift she had to keep safe." I remembered the locket, a seemingly ordinary piece of jewelry that Emma treasured because it was from her grandfather. She wore it constantly, even in the bath, until the chain broke last month. We promised to get it fixed but hadn't gotten around to it yet. "Where is it now?" I asked, already moving toward Emma's room. "In my jewelry box, I think. I was going to take it to the repair shop last week." I found the locket exactly where Sarah said it would be. It looked innocuous enough, a simple silver heart on a broken chain. But when I examined it closely, I noticed something odd about the clasp mechanism. "Sarah," I said slowly, "I need you to tell me everything you remember about your father's last big case, the one he was working on before he died. The Martinez corruption trial? It fell apart after Dad's death. All the evidence vanished, and the defendants walked free. Why?" I carefully manipulated the locket's clasp, and it opened in an unusual way, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a tiny micro SD card. Because I think I just found the missing evidence, I said, staring at the tiny card that had been hidden in plain sight, worn around our daughter's neck for the past year. Oh my God, Sarah breathed. That's why Victoria's been searching. She must have known. A noise downstairs cut through our conversation, the distinct sound of our front door opening. Someone's here, I whispered, quickly pocketing the SD card. Call the police, now. I could hear footsteps moving through our house with familiar confidence. Victoria wasn't even trying to be quiet anymore. Daniel? Her voice called out, sickeningly sweet. Are you home? I thought we could have a little chat about Emma's room. I moved silently toward my office, where I kept my old service weapon in a biometric safe. Victoria's footsteps echoed through the house, getting closer. She was taking her time, probably thinking she had the upper hand. You know, Daniel, her voice carried up the stairs, this could all be so much simpler if you just cooperate. Where's my dear niece? I'd love to ask her about that special gift from her grandfather. I reached my office and quickly retrieved my gun. My police training kicking in fully now. The SD card felt heavy in my pocket. Whatever was on it had been worth killing a judge for, worth terrorizing a 6-year-old girl. They were supposed to be simple cases, Victoria continued, her voice harder now. Dad was going to rule in their favor, take his payment, and retire quietly. But no, he had to develop a conscience at the last minute. I heard her reaching the top of the stairs. My mind raced through the layout of our house, calculating angles, escape routes, positions of cover. He thought he was so clever, hiding the evidence where no one would look, giving it to his precious granddaughter. Her laugh was bitter. Do you know how much money I lost when those cases fell apart? How many promises I had to break? The pieces clicked into place. Victoria hadn't just known about her father's corruption. She'd been part of it. A lawyer in his court, helping orchestrate the whole thing. When he threatened to expose everything, she'd made sure he couldn't. My phone vibrated silently. A text from Sarah. Police 2 minutes out. Stay safe. You killed him. I called out, making my voice carry from a different direction than where I actually stood. Your own father. He gave me no choice, Victoria snapped, falling for the misdirection. He was going to ruin everything, just like you're trying to do now. I could see her shadow in the hallway, moving toward where she thought I was. She was holding something, not a gun, but some kind of taser. Emma was never supposed to be involved, I said, keeping her talking. She's your niece, Victoria. She's 6 years old. Emma was his favorite, she spat. He trusted her with everything. Even at the end, he was protecting her, protecting Sarah, as if they deserved it more than me. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Victoria's head snapped toward the sound. That's unfortunate, she said, her voice turning clinical. I had hoped to handle this quietly, keep it in the family. Now I'll have to make this look like something else entirely. She raised the taser, turning toward my actual position. She'd known where I was all along, but before she could fire, a voice rang out from behind her. Drop it, Victoria. Sarah stood at the top of the stairs, her own gun trained steadily on her sister. I'd forgotten she kept one in her car after the break-ins last year. Victoria's face twisted into something ugly. Little Sarah, always Dad's perfect daughter, always following the rules, getting the praise, the love, the legacy. You're under arrest, Sarah said. Her lawyer's voice rocked steady despite facing down her own sister. The police are almost here. It's over. It's not over until I say it's over. Victoria lunged, not toward Sarah but toward me, her taser crackling with electricity. Several things happened at once. Sarah shouted a warning, I dove to the side, and Victoria's taser missed me by inches. As she stumbled past, I grabbed her arm, using her own momentum to bring her down. The taser clattered across the floor as Sarah rushed forward to help restrain her sister. The police burst through our front door moments later, racing upstairs to find Sarah and me holding Victoria down. As they took her away, she kept screaming about betrayal, about family loyalty, about how we'd ruined everything. Later that night, after the police had finished gathering evidence, after Victoria had been formally charged, after the SD card had been logged into evidence, revealing years of judicial corruption and millions in bribes, Sarah and I sat in our kitchen, emotionally exhausted. How do we explain this to Emma? Sarah whispered, clutching her coffee mug like a lifeline. We tell her the truth, I said softly, that her grandfather was a hero in the end, that he trusted her with something precious, and that she kept it safe just like he knew she would. Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. She's going to ask about Victoria. Then we'll tell her that sometimes people we love make bad choices, but that doesn't mean we have to make them too. The next morning, we picked Emma up from Jack's house. She ran to us, full of stories about her sleepover adventure, blissfully unaware of how close she'd come to danger. As we drove home, she asked about her locket, if we'd gotten it fixed yet. Not yet, sweetheart, Sarah said, reaching back to squeeze her hand. But we will, and this time we'll make sure it's on a stronger chain. Something that can't be broken. Emma smiled, satisfied with this answer, while Sarah and I exchanged glances. Our family had been shattered and reformed in the space of 48 hours, but like that locket's chain, we would rebuild it stronger than before. Sometimes it takes a hidden camera in a child's room to expose the darkness lurking in your family's shadows. But sometimes, that same discovery can lead to healing, to justice, and to a new appreciation for the true meaning of family loyalty. The truth, as painful as it might be, had finally set us all free.